Liam, a solitary human archaeologist, discovers a strange statue deep inside ancient alien ruins. Its beauty feels alive, too perfect for a mere work of art. As he carefully removes the layers of stone, he realizes it is not a statue at all, but a living being trapped for thousands of years. The alien woman, Isara, is unlike anything he's ever seen, copper skin patterned with gold, hair like flowing fire, and a mind that can touch his thoughts. When she awakens, the ruins collapse around them, forcing them to flee together. In the days that follow, Liam and Isara grow closer, their connection deepening as they share meals, stories, and moments that blur the line between curiosity and desire. But when a human supply ship arrives, its captain sees Isara as a resource to control and study. Liam must choose, return to his old life, or follow Isara into the stars in search of her lost people. The choice will test trust, courage, and the pull of something far greater than either of them expected. The stone wept copper tears, at least that's what Liam's mind told him as his brush cleared centuries of dust from the strange figure. The streaks of metallic orange trickled down a face so perfect it made his chest tighten. He had uncovered many ancient treasures in his years of work, but none like this. At first glance, she was a statue, a masterwork beyond anything the primitive builders of these ruins could have made. Her features held a beauty that went beyond human standards, high cheekbones that caught the light, lips parted in a frozen gasp, elongated ears sweeping back like the wings of an exotic bird. Delicate patterns wound across her skin like rivers of molten gold. Her hair, if it could be called that, was a cascade of orange strands that caught the beam of his headlamp, fading from deep crimson at the roots to bright amber at the tips. Even though it was stone, it seemed to ripple as if caught in a breeze. Liam checked his instruments again. Every reading was wrong. His electromagnetic scanner spiked and fell without reason. His thermal camera claimed the statue was warm, heat coming from inside the stone itself. Even his digital camera struggled to focus on her face, as if reality itself was bending around her. He tried to stay professional, speaking his observations into his recorder, something he always did when working alone. But the words became more personal. He told her about his theories, his years working in isolation, the long weeks without human contact. Sometimes, as he spoke, he thought he felt a presence in his mind, like a faint breeze carrying words he couldn't quite hear. The murals around the chamber showed beings made of light and fire, their shapes eerily like hers. Some images looked like warnings, though he could not read the alien script. The altar in which she was embedded was covered in shifting symbols that seemed to change if he stared too long. As the day wore on, he uncovered more of her face and chest. Beneath the last layer of stone, her skin shimmered faintly, not just light reflecting, but a glow from within, like heat waves rising from sun-baked rock. "You're not a statue, are you?" he whispered. The air grew warmer. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw her chest rise and fall. Scorch marks on the altar looked like they had been made by some huge force being contained inside. A prison, not a pedestal. Night fell, but Liam couldn't stop working. He set up extra lights, circling her with a halo of brightness. Her expression seemed to change with the shifting shadows, peaceful one moment, defiant the next. His hands moved on instinct, sweeping dust away from her cheek. The stone felt warm. His breath caught. Cracks spread through the rock, glowing like molten metal. The temperature spiked as the cracks widened, the glow inside flaring brighter. A pair of eyes snapped open, glowing like newborn stars. The air rippled with heat as her prison shattered in a burst of light and sound. Stone fragments clattered to the floor. She inhaled sharply, her first breath in what could have been millennia. Her copper skin pulsed with golden light, and her hair moved as if underwater, each strand tipped with fire. Liam's muscles locked. He couldn't look away. "Human," the word was in his ears and in his mind. "You are the one who freed me. How are you still standing?" Before he could answer, a deep rumble shook the chamber. Cracks spread along the walls. She tried to step forward but stumbled. Without thinking, Liam caught her. Her skin burned with feverish heat. "We need to move," he shouted. The ruins began to collapse. He half-carried her through the twisting corridors, dodging falling stones. Heat radiated from her in waves, lighting their way in flickering gold. Images flashed in his mind, stars he had never seen, worlds strange and beautiful, and the final memory of her being turned to stone. At last they burst into the open air. The chamber behind them caved in with a roar, sending up a cloud of dust. They collapsed against a fallen column, both gasping for breath. "You saved me," she whispered in his mind, her voice a mix of wonder and exhaustion. After all this time, it was a human. Her hair spread across them like a living blanket, still flickering with faint firelight. Liam stared at her, still trying to understand what had just happened. "I am Isara," she said at last, her thoughts wrapping around his like warm silk. "Liam," he replied. The name felt strange, small, against the immensity of the moment. The night around the ruins was silent except for the faint hiss of cooling stone. The heat from their escape still clung to Liam's skin, though the desert air was already stealing it away. Isara sat beside him against the broken column, her copper skin glowing faintly in the starlight. The golden patterns beneath her surface shifted slowly, like molten rivers finding their way home. "You're still weak," Liam said quietly, though her mind brushed his before he could even finish the thought. "My body remembers its strength," she replied in both sound and thought, "but it has not been used for a very long time." Her voice carried a resonance that made his chest feel too small. She stood unsteadily, and he instinctively reached out. She accepted his support without hesitation, leaning lightly against him as they moved away from the collapsed chamber. "Where are we going?" she asked, her head tilting toward the dark horizon. "My camp," Liam said. "Half a mile west. Food, shelter, and more light than this." As they walked, Liam found himself stealing glances at her hair. In the starlight, the deep crimson at the roots shifted to brighter tones with each step, as if every movement fanned some inner flame. She didn't just walk beside him, the air around her seemed to bend, warmer where she passed. The camp was simple, a small shelter, a table with equipment, and his single-seat research ship. He guided her inside, helping her into the only chair. She examined the cramped space with curiosity, her gaze lingering on the scattered datapads, tools, and maps. "This is where you live?" she asked, voice tinged with amusement. "For months at a time," Liam admitted. "It's quiet. Too quiet." Her golden patterns brightened briefly before dimming again. He rummaged through a storage crate and produced ration packs. "It's not much," he warned. "But it's edible." She accepted one, studying the package before tearing it open. "You're omnivorous," she said with a small smile. "Good. That will make things easier." She took a careful bite, then paused, eyes half closing. "It's strange. Dry. But not unpleasant." They ate in companionable silence, though Liam's mind was anything but calm. Every moment around her felt heightened, as if the air carried an electric charge. He was acutely aware of her gaze, her heat, the faint hum in his thoughts whenever she reached toward his mind. When they finished, she leaned back in the chair. "You have questions." "Too many," he admitted. "But, start with the most important, how long were you trapped?" Her expression darkened. The golden lines beneath her skin slowed, becoming almost still. "I lost count," she said at last. "I crashed here when your kind still lived in caves. The people of this world feared my power, feared what I could do with a thought, so they bound me in stone." Liam hesitated. "Why didn't they kill you?" Her eyes, glowing faintly in the dim cabin light, met his. "Because they could not. My kind, we are not easily destroyed. But we can be contained." The idea made Liam's skin crawl. "So you were conscious, all that time?" "Not always," she said softly. "But enough to dream. Enough to remember the stars." Her gaze drifted to the small porthole, where the night sky stretched endless and black. I thought I would never see them again. Liam followed her gaze. Do you want to go back? To your people? The golden patterns beneath her skin quickened, swirling in intricate designs. If they still exist, she said. My kind were nomads. We had meeting points across the galaxy. But the last time I was free, she shook her head. Everything could be gone. Silence stretched between them. Liam found himself fighting an odd, unwelcome thought, the idea of her leaving as soon as she found them. He pushed it away, but her eyes sharpened. You hide your thoughts poorly, she murmured. He flushed. Sorry. I'm not used to someone reading me. I'm not reading you, she corrected gently. Your mind is open. Like a warm fire in the cold. Most beings keep their thoughts locked away. Liam tried to laugh, but it came out awkward. I guess I don't have much to hide. She tilted her head, studying him. That's not true. You just think what you hide isn't worth noticing. The cabin grew warmer. Liam shifted in his seat. Maybe you should rest. You're still recovering. Perhaps, she said, but her gaze lingered on him. You saved me, Liam. And for that, I owe you more than you realize. Something in her tone made his pulse quicken, but before he could ask, she closed her eyes. The golden light beneath her skin dimmed to a slow, steady pulse. Liam busied himself tidying the small space, though his eyes kept drifting back to her. Even asleep, or whatever passed for sleep in her kind, she radiated heat and presence. It was as if the air itself leaned toward her. When the lights were dimmed and the camp was quiet, Liam sat on his bunk and stared at the ceiling. His mind kept replaying the moment her eyes opened, the collapse of the chamber, and the feeling of her hand in his. Outside, the ruins loomed against the stars, silent once more. But in the cabin, a presence pulsed at the edge of his thoughts, warm, steady, unshakable. And for the first time in years, Liam didn't feel alone. Morning came with the faint hum of Liam's instruments running their automatic checks. He rose from his bunk to find Isara already awake, standing by the porthole with her hands pressed lightly to the glass. Sunlight caught her hair, turning every strand into molten copper and gold. You watch the sunrise often? She asked without turning. Not usually, Liam admitted, moving to start the day's systems. Most mornings I'm buried in work before I notice the lights changed. Then today is different, she said, her tone carrying a quiet certainty. She joined him at the narrow table where breakfast was already heating. The air was warmer than usual, though he wasn't sure whether it was from her presence or the cramped space. When he handed her a cup of coffee, she cradled it between her hands as though studying the steam. You drink this every morning, she observed. It's a habit, he said, sitting opposite her. Keeps me going. Her eyes glowed faintly. It tastes bitter. But it wakes the senses. I see why you like it. They ate in silence for a time, the only sounds the hum of machinery and the faint tap of utensils. But Liam's mind was far from calm. He had been replaying their conversation from the night before, her words about owing him, her sharp reading of his unspoken thoughts. Finally, he asked, do you ever turn it off? She tilted her head. My awareness of thoughts? Yeah. Is it possible for you not to know what I'm thinking? It is possible, she said, studying him with an almost amused glint in her eyes. But why would I choose to? You don't hide from me, Liam. That's rare. And valuable. Her voice softened on the last word, and he found himself looking away, unsure how to respond. The days passed in a strange rhythm. Isara explored the immediate area around the camp, always returning before dusk. Liam noticed her movements growing more fluid, her posture straightening as strength returned. Her heat seemed steadier now, less wild and unpredictable, though in the evenings it would rise again, filling the cabin with a warmth that was both physical and something deeper. They talked, sometimes aloud, sometimes in the silent exchange of thoughts. She told him fragments about her people, nomads among the stars, bound not to any one world but to each other through a network of meeting points. She described vast gatherings where ideas and memories flowed as freely as air, and the way each meeting was both reunion and farewell. In return, Liam told her about Earth, not just the facts she could pull from his mind, but the feelings, the way rain smelled on dry ground, the pull of the tide under bare feet, the cold bite of winter wind in the lungs. She listened intently, her golden patterns shifting as if absorbing the sensations. One evening, as the twin moons rose, she asked, "Why do you keep imagining me leaving?" Liam froze. "Because, you will," he admitted. "Once you find your people." Her eyes held his steadily. "And if I don't?" He hesitated. "Then you'd still be free to go anywhere. You don't belong in a place like this. Not tied to one world, one person." A slow smile curved her lips. "You think you can decide where I belong?" Heat rolled off her in waves, and for a moment he thought the temperature gauges might trip an alarm. She leaned forward across the table, her voice lowering. "I've been stoned for longer than your civilization has existed, Liam. Do you think I'd waste my first days of freedom on someone I did not choose?" Her words lodged in his chest like a spark finding dry tinder. He couldn't answer, not with anything that felt safe. She reached across the table, her fingers hovering just short of his temple. "Would you like to know what it feels like when I choose?" Before he could respond, the cabin faded around him. They stood in a space that was not physical, a mental landscape shaped by her will. A narrow corridor stretched before them, the walls alive with shifting light. She stepped closer, her presence wrapping around him like warm silk. In that shared space, he felt not memories but possibilities, visions of her standing beside him on alien worlds, her hand in his as they looked down on nebulae glowing in colors no human eye had seen. The images grew more intimate, her hair spilling over him like living fire, her lips close enough to burn. Every sensation was sharp, immediate, and dangerously real. Liam's heart pounded. It was too much, too vivid. He pulled back, slamming mental walls into place. The corridor shattered, and he was back in the cabin, breathing hard. She drew her hand back slowly, her expression unreadable. "Breaking a link like that," she said, her voice cool but edged with something wounded, "is a grave insult among my people. Especially when what's shared is personal." "I wasn't ready," Liam said, his voice rough. He shook his head. It felt too real. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the hum of the ship's systems. "At last," she said, "if your mind cannot handle the closeness, perhaps your body can." Her gaze was steady, challenging. "May I draw from your physical energy instead? Humans do not rely on mental strength the way my kind do. You could spare some." Her meaning was clear in her eyes, in the subtle curve of her mouth. Liam's pulse thundered in his ears. "And if I say yes?" "Then," she said softly, "we see where this heat takes us." The air between them felt heavier, hotter, until Liam had to look away just to breathe. But when he looked back, her gaze was still locked on his, steady, patient, unshakable. The next morning, Liam woke to the faint hum of his ship's long-range comm system. A supply vessel was inbound, the automated message had been received hours earlier while they slept. He had requested the run weeks ago, long before finding Isara. Now the idea of another human crew arriving filled him with unease. "They'll be here by afternoon," Liam said, watching her as she sipped coffee across the table. She nodded slowly, the golden rivers under her skin shifting into tighter, warier patterns. "And what will they think, seeing me here?" "They'll think," he hesitated. "They'll think you're valuable. Too valuable. And that's the problem." Her gaze sharpened. "They'll try to take me." "They might," he admitted. "Captain Jack, he's not the trusting type. If he sees something that could change human technology overnight, I won't be taken again, she said, her voice low and certain. Heat rippled through the cabin in emphasis. Liam ran a hand through his hair. Then we need to be ready. We take the supplies, and we're gone before he can pull anything. By the time the supplies ship entered the atmosphere, Liam had chosen a landing site far enough from the ruins to avoid damage but close enough to reach quickly. The roar of its descent echoed across the barren plain, kicking up dust that curled in the hot wind. The vessel settled heavily, landing struts hissing. The ramp extended, and Captain Jack strode down, tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing the flat expression of a man already judging what he saw. His gaze froze when it landed on Isara. "What the hell is that?" he said sharply, his hand drifting toward the sidearm at his belt. "She's not that," Liam replied evenly. "Her name's Isara." Jack's eyes narrowed. "You found an alien out here? And instead of reporting it, you brought it to your camp?" "She's not a threat," Liam said, stepping slightly in front of her. Isara moved to the side, her voice calm but carrying that strange, commanding resonance. "I am a traveler who was trapped on this world for a very long time. Liam freed me." Jack's crew had gathered at the base of the ramp, their eyes darting between her glowing patterns and flame-colored hair. Some looked awestruck, others, uneasy. "You have no idea what you've done," Jack snapped at Liam. "First contact protocol exists for a reason. She could be dangerous, she could be carrying, she could be standing right here listening to you," Isara interrupted, her eyes brightening. The heat in the air ticked up a degree. "And I assure you, Captain, I am far more dangerous when treated as an object." Jack's lips thinned. "We're taking her back to headquarters. She'll be safer there, and so will everyone else." "That's not your decision," Liam said. "It's exactly my decision," Jack shot back. "Out here, I have authority, you have authority over your crew," Isara said, stepping forward. The ground between them seemed to shimmer. "Not over me." Jack stopped mid-step, sweat already beading on his forehead. "What are you doing?" "Showing you why the people who trapped me built walls of stone," she said. Her eyes flared brighter, and the air around Jack warped like heat over a desert road. His breath hitched, his hand hovering over his weapon but not drawing it. Liam saw Jack's knuckles whiten, saw his jaw clench. Isara wasn't touching him physically, but Liam knew she was in his mind, showing him something he didn't want to see. When she finally released him, Jack staggered a half-step back. His face had gone pale beneath the flush of heat. "Fine," he said hoarsely. "Take your supplies and go. But when this blows up in your face, don't expect rescue." He turned sharply, barking orders at his crew to start unloading crates. Liam exhaled slowly. "What did you show him?" he asked silently. "Just a reminder of how quickly fire can consume," she replied, her mental voice warm with satisfaction. The next hours were all business. Jack's crew moved quickly, their eyes averted from Isara. Liam secured the crates in his ship while she stood watch near the ramp, her presence alone enough to keep anyone from wandering too close. When the last container was loaded, Liam joined her. "That's it," he said quietly. "Once they lift off, we're gone." Jack's crew retracted the supply ramp, the ship's engines powering up with a deep vibration through the ground. Jack himself didn't appear again, perhaps by choice, perhaps by necessity. As the supply ship rose into the sky, Isara turned to Liam. "You think he'll try to follow us?" "He might," Liam admitted. "But I don't think he'll risk it now. Not after, whatever you put in his head." Her lips curved faintly. "Then let's not waste the time we've bought." They climbed into Liam's ship, the cargo hold full for the first time in weeks. She took the co-pilot's seat without asking, her golden patterns brightening as she leaned toward the controls. "The first meeting point of my people is several parsecs away," she said, feeding coordinates into the NAV system. Liam glanced at her. "And if they're not there? Then we try the next one." Her voice carried no doubt, only momentum. The engines rumbled to life. Dust swirled outside the viewport, and the barren plain began to fall away. Below, the ruins where they'd met were nothing but a dark shape on the ground. Ahead, the sky turned from deep violet to black, and the stars came alive. Isara leaned back in her seat, her gaze fixed on them. "I have dreamed of this moment for centuries," she said softly. Liam felt it too, the weight of the unknown, the pull of something vast and dangerous and beautiful. And in that moment, with her heat radiating beside him, he knew there was no turning back. Liam's ship cut through the thin upper layers of the planet's atmosphere, the rumble of the engines fading into the steady thrum of spaceflight. Gravity shifted slightly as they entered the calm of orbit. The stars outside the cockpit stretched endless in every direction, a field of silver fire. Isara's gaze was fixed on them. Her hair floated in the microgravity, strands of deep crimson and bright amber drifting like tongues of flame suspended in water. The golden rivers beneath her skin pulsed with a rhythm that matched the hum of the engines. "Does it feel like home?" Liam asked quietly. Her eyes softened, though the patterns on her skin shifted into something wistful. "It feels closer. But home is not a single place. It is the people you choose to share the stars with." She turned to him then, her gaze steady. "Right now, that's you." The words landed heavier than he expected. He cleared his throat, trying to focus on the NAV display. "First meeting points locked in. 2.5 days at our current speed." "Plenty of time," she said, leaning back into her seat with an ease that contrasted with the tension of the last few days. They spent the first hours in companionable silence, the cockpit filled only with the low murmur of instruments. Occasionally, she would glance at him, and he would feel the faintest brush of her thoughts, not searching, just present. A quiet warmth, like standing near a campfire on a cold night. Later, over their first meal in space together, she asked, "If you find my people, and I stay with them, what will you do?" Liam set his fork down slowly. "Keep working. Keep digging up pieces of the past. Try not to think about what I lost." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You assume I would leave. You've been waiting to find them for thousands of years," he said. "I wouldn't blame you if you did." The golden lines beneath her skin flared brighter, as if stirred by some inner current. "And if I find them, but they are not what I remember? What if the people I longed for are gone, or changed beyond recognition?" Then, he hesitated, feeling the weight of her eyes on him. "Then you stay with whoever makes you feel like you belong." A slow, deliberate smile curved her lips. "And what if that's already happened?" The air between them grew warmer. Liam's pulse picked up, but before he could find an answer, the proximity alarm chirped, a faint sensor echo from somewhere behind them. His fingers flew over the console. "It's nothing, probably." But the way he leaned forward told her he didn't quite believe that. Isara's gaze sharpened. "Jack." "Could be," Liam said. "The signature's faint, but," he stopped, watching as the reading vanished. "Gone. Either they cloaked or broke off." "Then we move faster," she said, reaching across to adjust the NAV settings. Her fingers brushed his, and the golden lines under her skin rippled like fire catching the wind. The ship surged forward, the stars outside stretching slightly with the increase in speed. Hours passed. They spoke little, but the silence was easy. Liam found himself watching the way her hair caught the light from the control panels, the subtle rise and fall of her breath, the way her presence filled the small cabin without crowding it. When they finally turned in for rest, the ship's lighting dimmed to a warm amber glow. In the quiet, he could hear her voice in his mind, "You're thinking too much again." He smiled faintly in the dark. "You make that sound like a bad thing." "Not bad," she replied. "Just unnecessary." He drifted into sleep with the sensation of her warmth lingering in his thoughts. The next morning, the first meeting point came into range, a cluster of ancient orbital structures drifting around a dead star. They were beautiful in their ruin, rings and spires, once gleaming, now fractured and covered in the dust of centuries. Isara's breath caught audibly. "This was one of ours," she said softly. Her golden lines dimmed as if mourning. Liam slowed their approach, letting the ship glide closer. "Any chance there's still someone here?" She closed her eyes, reaching outward in a way he could feel more than see. The warmth in the cabin grew faint, replaced by something colder, emptier. At last, she opened her eyes. "No one. Not anymore." "I'm sorry," he said. Her gaze stayed on the broken rings outside. "I knew it was possible. But, seeing it is different." They drifted in silence for a time, the dead star casting long shadows over the ruined structures. Finally, she turned to him. "There are other points. And now. I am not searching alone." He met her eyes. "Then we keep going." She smiled, a small, fierce thing, and leaned back in her seat. "Yes. Together." As they broke orbit, the ruined meeting point shrinking behind them, Liam felt the strange certainty that whatever lay ahead, whether they found her people or not, the journey itself had already changed them both. The stars stretched before them, endless and waiting. And for the first time in his life, Liam didn't feel like an archaeologist digging into the past. He felt like someone stepping into the future. Isara's mental voice brushed his thoughts, warm and sure. "Let's see what's out there." And with that, they turned their ship toward the unknown.